Welcome to the English with Kirsty podcast from www.englishwithkirsty.com. Here I'll be sharing with you tips, information and other learning resources so that you can improve your business English. Hi everyone and welcome to episode 56 of English with Kirsty. Just a couple of quick announcements before we get into the interview today. We're starting a new series, so every second week will definitely be a solo show with me speaking, but I'm also going to have some interviews now and speak to some guests, and we're also going to be doing a series looking at the countries where people are listening to my podcast. I know that doesn't necessarily tell you which language they speak, but it gives you an idea. So I'm looking at the countries where a number of people are and speaking to people who are either native speakers of those languages or who teach English to people in those countries. So we're starting today with the first one, and that's Corina from Romania, and she's going to talk about the differences between English and Romanian and some of the false friends and problems that people have and how to solve those. So that's our interview for today. I will also add the link to Corina's website to the show notes page, which this week is www.englishwithkirsty.com/podcast/episode 56. And there you'll also be able to find the YouTube channel. I'm still busy uploading past episodes, but if you know people who like to look for English materials on YouTube, then you can tell them about the YouTube channel. And also, don't forget that the club starts in September, so if you would like to know more about that or to use the code which gets you £5 off your first month's membership, you can also find those details on the show notes page. So now we'll go to the interview. It does end rather abruptly because we started talking about other things at the end, so I did thank Corina and then we kind of went into a different discussion, so that's a bit abruptly cut off at the end. But hope you enjoy the interview, and there will be more coming soon. Have a good week and have fun learning English.
Okay, so there's a special accent, a special Romanian accent. So I can recognize Romanian English speakers by their accent. It's a bit similar to what I hear in Spain when Spanish people speak English, or Italian, but it's rather like Spanish, like Hispano-hablantes in USA. But still there are some typical things I cannot really define because you simply hear them.
Okay, so you mentioned about the vowels. What's different about the way that the vowels are pronounced?
Very often they are pronounced shorter, as I'm used to hear them in English. For example, foundation, I often hear like foundation, foundation. So it's not this foundation. Or they pronounce instead of like in Romanian. Paste is often past, something with a more Romanian typical not a.
Okay.
Cut and past, something like that. It's not typical for all. I know many Romanians who speak a very good English because they have the occasion to listen to English speakers, to hear all the movies in original tone from very early childhood. And they get a better feeling for the language, for instance, like as the Germans, who have all the movies translated in German, so they can, most of them only hear their German English teachers speaking English and have little contact with native speakers until they grow up and have the possibility to travel. So I think that they hear it very, very early, especially English.
I think that's a really good point that you made about the native speakers. That's why I do the podcast as well, so that people can listen to me and to other people that I speak to, and now we're doing this series with languages, talking about other languages. But I think it's really good, because if you're listening to films that have been translated all the time, you're not really getting exposure to the language. So then the children in Romania have got an advantage there, because children in other countries don't have that.
They can sing English songs. I've seen kids in kindergarten singing English songs. They don't understand, but they pronounce them almost as native speakers, because it's the only mode they get in touch with language. So they learn it really. They have many English kindergartens in bigger towns and cities. So that's the one thing. Another very interesting thing about Romanians is that they can understand almost all the words of Latin origin, in English as in French, Italian, and so on. So on one side, they have the advantage that they don't need translation. They don't need to search the dictionary, like legal in German, gesetzlich, Romanian, legal. So many words are so similar to the way they are in Romanian, so they are almost one-to-one.
No, it's useful, isn't it? Because then it's vocabulary that you don't have to learn if it's similar to the Latin.
Yes, but at the same time, it's some kind of a trap. For instance, you tend to use your Latin word as you use it in Romanian, but in English it has a different sense. So you can say my mother is a doctor, which is not very clear for somebody. Maybe, so if I tell you my mother is a doctor, what would you understand? Is she a physician? Did she study medicine, or?
I would think that she did, because although you can use it as a title when you say doctor, I would generally think of someone who works in a hospital or in a doctor's surgery.
Okay, so they tend to say my mother is a doctor, if she's a physician. But they would say my mother is a physician if she studied physics, for instance, because the Romanian word is physician.
Oh, okay.
So physician and physician are not the same.
Okay, so some of these are helpful and some of them are false friends, because it looks like something you already know and isn't. And in terms of the grammar and the way sentences are put together, because I don't know anything about Romanian, what would you say is the biggest difference? Are there as many tenses? That kind of thing?
I didn't find out. The English grammar is very easy to learn. It's much easier than Romanian, French, Spanish, whatever. There are many different endings and very complicated tenses which even Romanians don't use in common speaking. But there is an issue that comes into my mind now. There is no such a construct in the English, in the Romanian language. They say is 10, if they want to say it's 10 o'clock. Is raining. So we don't have this kind of it in Romanian. Okay. So you probably get to hear Romanians say is raining, leaving the it word out, or is a good idea, because it's a one-to-one translation, taking every word from the Romanian phrase and translating it. And since there is no such an it in Romanian, they just leave it out when they make the English phrase. The book is feminine in Romanian, and it would be like I left her on the table.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's not a it, and if it's something impersonal, then rains. It or is 10 is late, not it is late.
Okay, yeah,
So it's not such a thing like is in German or it in English.
I mean, because we don't have any gender pronouns, it's all the dog, the cat.
So people are happy to start learning English because they are very successful. Everything is the. There is a problem, but I'm not sure it's a typical Romanian problem, because I see it frequently when German kids start to learn English, that they forget the ending S as a third form.
Mm-hmm.
Just once, says, and so on. I say, you say, he say.
Yeah, that's something that I often have to correct.
I write, you write, he writes. But I think it's a general problem, not a typical Romanian problem. There's no K. It's only in words of foreign origin or in names. And kilogram is the only Romanian word written with K.
Okay, so if you get English words that have that kind of sound, then you have to think, is it a C or is it a K? Because the K isn't there.
Yeah. I think a big problem is the one-to-one translations and using Latin words in the sense as they are used in the Romanian language, which might not be the same as in English. We keep in touch.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time today. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the English with Kirsty podcast. If you have any questions or comments, my email address is kirsty@englishwithkirsty.com, or you can go to www.englishwithkirsty.com/podcast, where you'll find information about the individual episodes.